I also forgot to mention that John is the creator, Devereux is the pianist, and Sam is the lyricist of the project. First question is, what inspiration did you draw from to create this world?
Oh, geez. The musical aspect, I was really inspired by Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. The overworld aesthetic that we find ourselves in once episode 2 begins. It's a bit of a mixture between almost like The Walking Dead and Avatar: The Last Airbender. But I guess there's no one inspiration. But we kind of drew from a lot of different sources from things that we really liked growing up with.
I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Pasek and Paul, the composer and librettist. They've written music for like a ton of different shows. Like they did the music for The Greatest Showman, as well as like James and the Giant Peach and a bunch of others. And whenever I'm writing music for Sirius, one of the characters, that's probably my biggest inspiration, kind of sprinkled with Disney on top. And whenever I'm writing for the Dr. Loveman, I'm thinking like old-fashioned big band stuff. I grew up in school doing a lot of big band stuff, and I'm a jazz pianist primarily. So those two worlds kind of both get combined in the first episode.
That's so cool.
You know, I draw a lot of, I've been writing lyrics for a long time, so I draw a lot of inspiration for myself through a lot of different artists. Sufjan's a big one for like very direct lyrics that I tend to take from. But Dr. Horrible is a great like musical element for me, like kind of figuring out how the dialogue works between the two. Heather's is another big one for me when it comes to musicals and writing lyrics for it. I just love how direct a lot of that is, and those like kind of pinpoint words, if that makes sense, that musical tends to have. Beautiful is a great example in that show where it's a theme that's obviously present throughout the show, but it's brought up very effectively in a lot of different ways. So I think of lyrics a lot like that, at least for Sirius, you know, how we can take certain words and certain aspects of those themes and, you know, kind of push them in different musical realms.
We'll start with Devereux on this one. Devereux, if you could summarize Sirius AI in one word, what would it be?
Hope.
Sam.
Damn it, you took the good one. Yes, shoot. Humanity.
Ooh, John.
Art.
Oh gosh, I would say intriguing.
That's a good one.
So I know that what are some of the themes in Sirius, and how do you convey those themes through the lyrics?
So a big theme for us is humanity. How we talk about humanity with Sirius, who is he is artificial intelligence. At what point does like humanity for him and his programming kind of like cross into each other? There's a song we have, Is There More? We have another line about like a swinging pendulum as opposed to his heartbeat. You know, simple stuff like that. But you know, it's easy to forget that he's not human when you're listening to him sing and dance and you're seeing him, you know, play around. We try to kind of throw in every now and then that he is artificial intelligence. He is not, you know, he like at his core, he's not human, but there is something underlying underneath all that, you know, that we feel as the audience when we view it.
So in this first episode, we have Sirius and Dr. Loveman. They're the only two characters that we see in this first episode. Lots more to come. It creates a nice kind of musical juxtaposition because Loveman is the human and he has created this robot to help us learn how to be human. One thing that's just inevitable is that Sirius is going to have a lot of Loveman in him because he created him. And so one of the things that Loveman really obsesses over, what he calls the artifacts or the old pieces of artwork that might even be from like our current age that he's stored in his cave. And so I gave him a very kind of classic feel in his song. All kind of acoustic instruments, piano, string bass, trumpets and saxophones and stuff. And that really kind of to me described what he was all about. And so when we move to Sirius, what you see is that he's got a bunch of string instruments, and he's got the orchestra as his bass palette, and that's the part that I see coming from Loveman. But then he's also got all these different electronic techno-y sounds that weave their way in. So it's almost as if to say that the orchestra is what you imagine, but the reality is that it's all electronic. So it's almost like you're seeing the imagination come out in the sound. So.
I've definitely listened to a lot of the music and the lyrics, and I'm gonna put some of those sound pieces in this as you guys are talking, and I'm really hoping that you as fans of this show will love it as much as these guys have put their hearts and souls, and I've certainly enjoyed listening to it. So, John, what are some of the themes, and if you wanted to add on to anything that Devereux and Sam just mentioned?
Sure. So one of the big things that we do discuss in Sirius AI is this whole idea of where art has its place in the realm of humanity. What is art? What constitutes art? And how does it relate to who we are as people? And one of the things that we set out very early to accomplish was to give Sirius the perspective of a newborn child. And he's seeing this world where everything enthralls him. And just like Loveman, who is his father, he can see both the world in a very bright and optimistic way. Then he can also see it in a very dark and scary way. He doesn't really let that show that side with Sirius too much, but there's little bits and pieces showing that he does have that. There is some trauma in the world. The world is not a perfect place. But Sirius goes forward into this world completely blissfully unaware of those. And what that's supposed to represent is childhood, and something that every single one of us goes through. And one of the big things that Sirius has to accomplish is he has to bring hope back into this world that seemingly has lost their ability to have hope. And so you're going to find a lot of times that one of the themes that we're trying to hammer home is the ability to see the world in the lens of an optimistic child is one of the key elements that we need to be able to combat how we see the world later in life. A lot of people, as they get older, they seem to lose their ability to see the wonder and the joy in life. And we have art as a tool to be able to combat that. But it is in of itself a tragedy. The more used to life we become, the less enthralled we are with it over time. So definitely one of the things that we want to touch on is mental health. We don't have all the answers, but we are trying to give an answer to how to best cope with those kind of issues. Because as we grow older, we lose that childlike, blissful state that we are in. So that's definitely one of the strongest themes I think that we're going to be tackling in the show.
And that's a really deep theme. I know Kristen and I kind of like grazed the surface of like our anxieties, and I feel like as adults we tend to lose that like sense of, as a kid you could just dive in, no worries, but then as you get older, your life experiences and everything kind of leads you to be a little bit more anxious for things. A fun one for the whole group. So Kristen, you got to be ready too. If you could pick your last meal ever, what would your last meal on Earth be? John.
Does meal incorporate I need to eat something? Like
Yeah. Last meal, like if you know what I mean by like the idea of a last meal,
yeah.
right?
You're in prison, you're gonna
Okay, I'm in prison, I get my last meal. Captain Crunch.
Ooh, Captain Crunch. Dev, how about you?
This might be kind of weird, but I love spaghetti squash, macaroni, and cheese.
Sam?
Yeah, that's bomb. That's bomb. No, mine is Devereux's meal. I'm taking Devereux's meal. He's on it today. I don't know.
Kristen, what would you pick as your last meal?
very healthy mac and cheese and French fries.
So we all like mac and cheese.
Regular mac and cheese. I'm not about that.
Captain Crunch.
If I didn't care, because I'm gluten free, but for my last meal I just wouldn't care. The chambers can smell my gas. I would pick spanakopita, which is a Greek dish made with like phyllo dough, spinach, and feta cheese. Like if my grandmother could come down and make me a slice before I go, that would be my meal of choice, and I could just enjoy that. So
That was awesome.
yeah.